Let's do this. All right, so welcome everybody to Using Games in Therapy Without the Games. I definitely want to move pretty fast through this because I want time to discuss. And this is like, it's categorized as a panel. It's half hopefully therapeutic for all of you and half training. And for those of you, I think on the recording, it won't look like what those of you who are here live can see. Oh, this is kind of messy. I don't know. I look kind of like a specter. I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna embrace this.
The green
Um,
screen through Zoom is always weird.
yeah. I have it. I actually have an actual green screen. If I use that, it would just look even worse. But it's fine. It's fine. I'm gonna embrace this. All right. So welcome to Using Games in Therapy Without the Games. Uh, just a very quick, let me move myself out of the way. Just a quick note, materials that are included in this course or in this presentation may include interventions and modalities that are beyond the authorized practice of mental health professionals. So if any of you are mental health professionals, licensed professionals, you are responsible for reviewing the scope of practice, including activities that are defined in law as beyond the boundaries of practice in accordance with and in compliance with your profession standards. That is me covering myself. All right, so really quick. About me, if all of you don't know me, that's me. Founder of Geek Therapy, co-founder of Let's Play Therapy Institute. Through Geek Therapy, I've been producing the Geek Therapy podcast since 2012. Now we call it GT Radio, the Geek Therapy Community Podcast, part of the Geek Therapy Network, where we also have shows like Headshots, a psychology and gaming show, Rolling for Change, our tabletop and board gaming show, and Geek Therapy Adventures, our actual play podcast, where we're in the middle of a campaign right now. All of these shows are hosted by mental health professionals and educators. If you want to know more about that, let me know later. So that's me. This is my favorite profile picture because the person that's actually in that, well, first of all, it's my favorite Batman suit. It's Azrael Batman, issue number 500. I was a kid, that came out. I love it. Still my favorite Batsuit. And so the person in that suit is actually this guy. His name is Dr. Joe Serrano. He is an artist here in the Chicago area. He does cosplay and he actually makes the suits and he wears them at conventions. I did a panel with him earlier today called Making Your Own Miniatures Mindfully. And it was fantastic. Check out the recording later if you missed it. But one of the things that we talked about during that session was what our dream practice would look like. So we talked about Joe Manganiello's basement, or like a maker space with tons of 3D printers and all the tools we could possibly want. For me, it looked more like this. Like, this is a picture I like to use a lot. If it were up to me, I would definitely have a game room, like half arcade. Something like this would be perfect for me. I would love that. That's exactly what I would want. But the truth is, this was my first private practice. This is what my office looked like. I eventually got a TV in there. It's very sad. I was still setting it up, so this picture isn't actually fair. But my second office was even smaller. You can tell by the window, like that window's bigger, this one's smaller. And under those shelves right there, I put a TV and a video game system. So I was able to have something in my room. But this is about as good as it got when I was in my private practice. So I made the rules, and that's about as good as it got. And even like right now behind me, this is what my home office looks like. So I have like some paint and some tools and toys and things. But even like, it's a far cry from some of the things that I showed before. And this picture I share because for a long time I was an in-home therapist, which meant that I didn't even have an office to work in. And I remember one day working with a client at a school where there was nowhere for us to have privacy, and they put us in a storage closet that kind of looked like that. That's not the actual one, but it's one that I found, and we kind of just sat on the floor and were able to do our session there because we had no other choice. This is the type of equipment that I was carrying. These are finger puppets that I bought from a street vendor in New York City. I had a backpack because I didn't even have a car to like carry games and toys. So this is like, for a while, this was it. Like this is a great picture of a period of my mental health professional career. So yeah, yeah. And actually, Geek Therapy came from some of these ideas. So when the origin story of Geek Therapy is that in 2011, I was an intern in New Jersey, and I was working with kids ages 6 to 11. And one day, looking for activities and tools to use in a session, I found that we had a Nintendo Wii at the practice. And I asked my supervisor if we could use them. If I could, I was like, hey, I have some ideas. These kids love video games. Can I use this Wii? And she rejected that flat out. It was very, very fast. I was like, no, she gave me a million reasons why not to. And it made me very sad. So I went home that night and like I started geektherapy.com. I started the website. I was like, no, like we can do this. This works. This is basically I out of retaliation, I wanted to then show my website to my therapist, to my supervisor. I never got the chance. But the truth is that that's the situation for most of us, most of the time. And it's kind of sad. I do trainings like with the Let's Play Therapy Institute. I've been doing a lot of training for play therapists, and a lot of the questions are like, oh yeah, like how do we, or we talk a lot about how to build your game collection, and play therapy is all about that playroom, and all of these well, the one version of it, right, is about having a playroom. And I'm assuming that most of you come to trainings like the Badana Group's trainings, or Save Against Fear, and we see people doing the coolest stuff. Like that's what people ask me all the time. They're like, how do I do what you do? Like, how do I do this? I've had better situations than the ones that I showed. I just wanted to show you like the bottom end. But like, yeah, how do we use these things? How do we have these awesome game collections? How do we have these awesome rooms? And the truth is, most of us, most of the time, will not achieve that. But that doesn't mean that we cannot use games. So one thing that I'm hoping is helpful for all of you, and something that I like to think about a lot, is something that is often used as kind of the basis in play therapy. One of the core principles, which is that play is the language of children. And so in my trainings, I always, update that to like, play is also the language of gamers. And relevant to this discussion, like plays, it's a language, right? It's something that we can use during the play, but I think there's something to that. We can also just talk about our experiences a lot. And at Geek Therapy, there's something that we say a lot. It's, if it matters to them, it should matter to us. So if games matter to our clients as much as we want to we can embrace them. We can embrace them in different ways that aren't necessarily playing in the session. So to help with that, I just want to do a quick review of some of the ideas within the Geek Therapy model, so that you can hopefully keep them in mind and not be discouraged when you have to when you think about that dream practice that you want to have, but that you aren't there just yet. So here are a few ideas regarding ways to practice the Geek Therapy model. This is the way I always teach it. One is very client-centered. You let the client geek out. So if they're into video games, or I mean into gaming in general, like let them talk about it, right? I assume I'm preaching to the choir, so I'm not going to go into the kind of training that I usually do about how to do that. But like let them talk about it, right? Like let them lead. If they want to talk about games and their experiences, let them do it. The other version is we geek out. So maybe clients are talking about something and we know that is similar to a gaming concept that we know. It's like the idea of practicing and getting better, the idea of building up your defensive stats as resilience and things like that. So we can set the frame because those are things that we know about really, really well. And then the last piece, which is the magical part, is the collaborative piece, where ideally, if the client brings something up and you're familiar with the game, you're just speaking another language, right? Like it's very special things can happen. Same way the other way around, you present these ideas to your client, and then they can engage with that and be like, oh yeah, it's like this one video game, or this one. I was playing an RPG the other day, and this happened, and we had this experience, and my dungeon master did this and this, and I felt this way. And again, magical when we get to that point. So basically, one thing to keep in mind, hopefully that this will help you, is the main theory of this model is A plus R plus U, which is an affinity. So in this case, we're talking about games, right? Like the idea is that the client is into games. Like they feel compelled towards games. They love games. It's their favorite thing. They feel an attraction to them. They love what they represent. They love everything about them. It's an affinity. Gaming, I'm all there. And then relatedness, right? So relating their own experiences to the characters in the games, or some experiences in their life to the experiences in the game. And then those can lead to understanding or insights. Another version of this, which is also very, very useful, is instead of relatedness, it could be repulsion. So it could be something happens in a game and you just feel like it just makes you angry. It just upsets you. It's just something that you do not want to feel again, or you don't understand why it made you so angry or why it made you so sad. Bringing those things in, discussing it in the context of something we have an affinity for, can lead to understanding and insight way faster than not. So in this case, we're talking about an affinity for games relating to those experiences and those characters in those stories. So again, this is a quick review. If you talk about the non-directive part and you focus on this idea that the client is sharing, like just like the client, let the client choose, right? Let the client choose the game to talk about, or let them bring a game to play if they can. Again, you may be in a situation where you cannot provide the games because of the setting, because of resources, for a million different reasons. And if it's a game that the client already cares about, they can bring it in. That's even better. Again, ideally, we'd have a huge collection, but if not, invite them to bring it in. You may have to talk to parents or significant others if your client is an adult, and they may need to bring in, permission to bring in a game and then show you what's going on. They can also just share gaming experiences, right? So they can actually just talk about what happened in the game. They don't actually have to bring the game in. And of course, we can just talk about games in general or specific games. Again, I assume I'm preaching to the choir here, but I can go in more detail later. So the core idea of all this, right, is that games are played outside of the session or between sessions most of the time. Even if we were to play through every single session, there's still many more days and hours in between those play sessions. So there's a lot going on. So there's just a lot of material for us to get through. And if clients are willing to bring that up and share it, that's a lot of material to go through. Just imagine or think about how much gaming you do every single week, and then think about just like how long would it take you to talk about and reflect upon all of those experiences? So some ways that clients can do that is through pictures, achievements. There's a holdover from my video game version, right? But online profiles, you can use your cell phone to like take pictures or record a video. They can share a video that they posted on YouTube. Maybe they were streaming, a gaming session on Twitch, so they actually have that saved. Many different options and ways that that a client can share their experience. I have this, I like to include this picture when I'm doing video game training, because video games inherently have these share buttons built into their controller. PS5 is coming soon. It has another button there. And so clients can like share a moment, an experience immediately. And if we help them get into that mindset of like, hey, when something cool happens, whether it was exciting or, you didn't like it, save it, please, and then bring it in. And then when we're talking about teenagers and adults, I mean, especially just reflecting on those recent meaningful game experiences, kind of said that before already. I find that that's where the sweet spot is. If they're gaming already, there's so much to reflect on, and they don't take the time to reflect probably unless we help them learn that skill and take the time to do it. But why not do it with your therapist? That's a great way to reflect on meaningful experiences, and make sure we include gaming experiences among them. So when we're talking about a directive approach, it's, intentionally, we are, it's an applied discussion of the specific games and experiences. You've probably learned throughout this weekend how to intentionally apply gaming experiences or the actual game. But again, sometimes we don't have that option. So just an intentional and applied discussion of those games and experiences suggested by you. So maybe you can present the topics in a frame of a game that you understand, or a game that is very popular. So there may be games that you're playing right now, and they make you think about something, and maybe you can bring it up. Again, this works if the client is into games. Don't do this with clients who aren't into games without learning a little bit more about them, because this could backfire. But again, assuming that your clients are into games, this is an affinity that they have, you can use your knowledge of it to kind of bring a lot of that out. You can discuss choices, right, in different games and the way that those things work. So sometimes just, there are multiple choices. Sometimes there are, morality systems in games. There's so many pieces of so many different games that have these concepts. And something that I like to do also is suggest preparing for challenges. So maybe they might suggest that they play games or something like that, but they don't really want to talk about it, or can't think about that. Just presenting ideas like, hey, like maybe how can we prepare for that thing that's coming up, for that new gaming experience that you're doing? Maybe we can do that in the context of a game and make that comparison. So one experience that I like to bring up, which a lot of people understand, Mario Kart, and a lot of people know the feeling of getting this when you're in first place. It is frustrating. It feels unfair, and it's one of those things that if we have the games in session, it's something that you can kind of set up for, right? Like maybe let the client go ahead, maybe make things easier, set up a situation. But experiences like this are happening to us in games all the time between sessions. So this is just one example. Again, a video of another video game example. You have something like Super Smash Brothers. There's so many options and choices and things that you could do, and you could use this as a metaphor for like how to change different parts of your life, or different things that you may have control over. Different items. What items will be beneficial for you in your life or in your experiences? Things like this. Again, framing them in what you're comfortable with, what you know very, very well. And yeah, prepare for challenges. That's the same slide. Something that I like to mention is that you may be building up. I don't know for sure, right? I'm assuming that many of you know a lot about games, but many of you don't, and many of you are learning right now, and that's okay too. That is absolutely okay. It is okay to not know about games or how to use them. And there's so many resources out there. These are the ones that I recommend to anyone who is starting out. And this applies later on too, because there's no way to know every single game that you can that is out there. So these may seem kind of obvious, but I hope they're helpful. So going to YouTube, going to Twitch. Twitch is a streaming service. If you're unfamiliar, people are playing games. People are streaming themselves playing games that they love. Do not hesitate to talk to them, because they love those games and will be happy to answer any questions about games that they're playing. So if there is a game that you have never played before, search for it, see if someone's playing, and ask some questions. It'll be very helpful. And then Wikipedia. Definitely go to Wikipedia. Go to Common Sense is very helpful. And then, of course, our websites, or my website's geektherapy.com, and the Let's Play Therapy Institute. We have a lot of resources there too. Here's just a quick example of like a game that you can see a video for. This is a video game called Grease, which is you play through the 5 stages of grief. And here's a version of me playing the game live on Twitch, so that people could ask me questions about it live while I was playing it. This is an example of Common Sense Media. It has like parental guidance. It has very different types of reviews than you would get from an enthusiast website. Very helpful for information. Here's some examples of the type of thing I do at the Let's Play Therapy Institute this year because of COVID, because all of these play therapists who had who can no longer use their playrooms and all of the toys that they've been accruing for years, they were looking for ways to play online. And obviously video games are a great way to do that. And so I did some presentations over the summer with my partner about the most popular games right now. Animal Crossing was very popular earlier this year, so that was our first one. And something that might be helpful for many of you, I'm including it because we still have a little time, and I definitely want discussion. Um, I definitely want to think about parental controls, because many times clients come in, and families complain about how much time they're spending gaming, or maybe we're spending a lot of money or things like that. And it's really important to keep in mind that parental controls can be very helpful for a lot of different issues. And that's not directly playing the game, but it's just addressing playtime and limiting the types of games that you can play. And for adults, there can be a lot of self-regulation. So one thing that I recommend often is an app called Freedom, which is an app that you can install on your computer. This is for digital, right? That will block certain websites during certain times. It can be really helpful for addressing these ideas of parental controls and different limits. And I've got a few case studies I can go through, but let me see. There are some things in the comments. I just want to see what's going on. I love talking to my clients about their own experience with D&D. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yep. A lot of the work is done outside, right? Oh yeah, someone here who's obviously a streamer. She says, when you don't talk to us, it makes it boring. It makes everything much better for us as streamers when the audience talks. Yeah, no, absolutely, right? So here's some quick case studies just to present a few of these ideas. I had one client who came in and basically, I would say was testing my geek cred when he came in. So he was really into this game Shovel Knight, and I said like, "Oh yeah, I'm playing Shovel Knight." I was not playing it as well or as much as this client was, but we had a great conversation, and we built rapport, and he definitely tested me. And since I didn't know a lot of the answers to his questions, he was able to teach me because I wanted to learn more. So I asked him to teach me and what his favorite parts were. But I bring up, there's a lot of Minecraft here because this is a client who would record his gaming sessions, would show me the creations that he would make. He would talk to me about the experience of sharing a creation that he made at home with members of his class, so classmates, and like how much it hurt him when they either didn't care or they told him it was stupid, or how good it felt when someone liked something. And so we talked about all of these experiences in the frame of Minecraft, which he loved. And we would play Minecraft in session just kind of as background noise. Like he would be way more open to talking. Again, I'm assuming we're a bunch of gamers here. But an example that I like to give in a lot of my trainings is there's a scene in The Office where Toby is trying to get Michael Scott to talk. And so he just starts playing cards and Michael starts opening up. Right, that's kind of what can happen if you can play games. But I find that even if the games aren't there physically and you're not playing them in the moment, you just get into it. You get, the hype gets going and you really love it, and you find yourself talking about how you're feeling and what you're thinking and your life experiences very, very easily. And there's a picture here of a family, because for this client, the family, just Minecraft was a huge important part of their family. The father and mother divorced, and when the mother remarried, his stepfather tried very, very hard to connect with him. And one of the things he did was he like bought a second computer so they could both play Minecraft together. And apparently the whole family got into it, and it was huge, and it was very, very helpful for the family to get together. And part of the work with the family was talking about how, hey, that seems to be working and seems to be really healthy. Let's talk a little bit more about that. Why do you think that's working? And it was just really great. And I had another client who she was a middle-aged, raising kids, trying to start her own business, very busy. And I remember her saying that an argument that she had with her husband was about her playing too much Candy Crush in this case. And so I got talking about it, like, oh, Candy Crush, like, do you play? And she's like, yeah, I play a lot. It's very relaxing. It's soothing to me. But nobody gets that. and I don't know if that's true. So we talked about the benefits of gaming, and then we used those moments where she was fighting with her husband about her playing and him belittling her to help with communication skills. And just one more example here, kind of illustrating some of the things I was saying before. Get into another video game example. We can go into other types of gaming in a second. But I had a friend who, not a friend, a client who played a lot of Destiny, and he loved playing the game so much. I remember him asking me, like, "Oh, can we be friends? Can we play online?" I was like, "No, no, no. We have boundaries. That's not ethical. We can't do that." So I invited him to share clips, record himself. He would play. He would share his achievements. And Destiny, even though we never played it because it's also a very difficult game to play in session, the game was always very much there, and his experiences there and what the game meant in his life were always a key part of the therapeutic process for us. So I went through that super fast because I want to hear from all of you what kind of thoughts you have about some of this. So I definitely want to do some Q&A. I'll answer questions. I want other people to answer too. I want y'all to share, and actually, and yeah, I'll talk about this at the end again, but I'll say it real quickly that for Extra Life, which is in a few weeks, we have a team. If you're not a part of a team, or if you want to help support Children's Miracle Network hospitals, definitely you can go to this website or email me back from the email that I sent you for the link to this event if you want to know more about fundraising for children's hospitals. So yeah. So any questions? Feel free to either raise your hand, put them in the chat. I'm happy to go over anything else that I talked about in detail. And actually, let me stop. Let me stop sharing real quick. Samantha, yeah.
Yeah, I'm really interested in your theory that you presented at the beginning, and I'm wondering, is there a paper on that, or is there another place to find that information? I'm doing a training for the other clinicians in my community mental health practice about Geek Therapy, and I just want to try to provide them with as many resources as possible. It'd be great if there was something that I could reference to when sharing your theory with them.
Yeah, so I will say, let me, so I studied rational emotive behavior therapy, so REBT, and one of the things that I loved about the practice or the Albert Ellis Institute is that they did these things called Friday Night Live, which meant that every single Friday you could go and see it in action, right? So that is the reasoning behind our podcast. So let me try to scroll through this really quick. I hope it doesn't cause anybody any pain. So you can look up, this is right at the beginning. I can't. There we go. Okay. So you can look up some of these podcasts and hear a lot of these concepts repeated, like practice over and over again, in particular GT Radio. So anywhere that if you listen to podcasts, use any podcast app that you want, look up for GT Radio, the Geek Therapy Community Podcast. We have 8 years of interviews with clinicians who are doing this in many different ways. Many of them are here at this conference giving trainings, and we try to every single week practice these concepts in different ways. Lately, we've been applying them to dealing with the pandemic and things like that. There's also our website, which has a lot of blogs that I find are very helpful. And because we get this question a lot, we have a book called the Geek Therapy Playbook, which is available on Amazon. And you can learn more about this theory in particular and in more detail from that. And it's still kind of in beta. It's being updated over time, but that is available on Amazon. And that's written by me. And if you go to any of these podcasts or the Geek Therapy Network, you'll find a lot of people who are providing how they do this. So yeah. Again, a lot of people, even we've had Jack Birkenstock, who is like the director of Cardona, talking about his model and what he thinks. So there's a lot there that hopefully you'll find helpful. Cool. Anybody else have any questions or want to share their experiences with some of these things for maybe some people who will see this video later or are here with us and they don't they don't have access to all of this stuff or they're just getting started. I'd love to hear from any of you. Imagine this being the part at the convention where people line up in front of the microphone to share their thoughts. Sarah, are you unmuted?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah. Okay. Did you want to share something?
No, did it look like I was trying to?
Oh no, because you're unmuted. No problem. And Jacob is unmuted.
Oh
Do
yeah,
you want to share something?
Just because my mic is muted.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, I had a thought.
Yeah.
So as you're talking, I'm thinking about how big geek culture is, right? How many different things that encapsulates, right? Someone can be into specific TV shows versus games, RPGs, or video games, as mentioned in the chat. It can be all different kinds of things. I conceptualize the bridge being the passion that is behind that. I think one part of what makes it really powerful, I mean, anytime that a client is talking about something they're really passionate about, that's a window into who they are. That's their value system. That's what they care about. That's what's going to motivate them.
Yeah.
The stories that we as geeks share provide a common symbology. We are able to, in some cases, communicate about something on a really deep level because there's a shared experience. We can reference a specific person, and that's an archetype to us. And within that one word, there's a whole story behind it. It feels like, even if this is long-winded leading up to the question, I guess, or the discussion, but there's a little bit more of a hurdle if a client's fandom is not my fandom.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I can still listen, and by getting their explanation and hearing their story, I can still make sense of what matters to them. But it's not the same as when they're talking about something that I also love. Right. I wonder if you have thoughts, or other folks as well, about how do you bridge that gap. There's not enough time in the day for me to delve into everything as much as I would love to, but how do you work with a client whose fandom is not your fandom?
Yeah. Great question, Jacob. That's very much the first part where I'm like, let them geek out, right? Because we can't possibly know everything. Like, you can say I love comic books, and then they immediately recommend or say that their favorite comic book is a comic book that you've never heard of. I'll give you an example. Early in my career, I had a client, exactly a situation. I love comic books. Oh, me too. What's your favorite comic book? Marijuana Man. I was like, what is Marijuana Man? I've never heard of this book. So they brought the copy in, and they talked to me about what the story meant to them, how they related to the story of the author, and the parallels between her life and his. And the key thing here is no one in her life had ever said, tell me more about this thing that you care about. It's isolating. And to be able to come to a therapist who we're putting so much trust into, someone who we are going to for help, I think it is foundational to be able to simply be open to that. Like I said in one of the slides, if it matters to them, it should matter to us. That doesn't mean we know everything about it. That doesn't mean we spend hours researching it. That means we simply, by acknowledging the fact that it is important to them, it can be incredibly meaningful in the therapeutic relationship. Think about how important it is in personal relationships when you love something and you bring it up to someone, and they not only them not knowing is not the problem, them not caring can even be hurtful. And sometimes it's hard to even maintain relationships when something is so important to you, and you can't get any sort of even interest. So that's really the core piece of it. It may sound simple, but it's just an openness. Ask questions, show curiosity, and show curiosity because you want to know why it's so important to them. That's really what matters. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. And it wasn't so much like a question that has a single answer. Just
Yeah.
hearing about people's experiences with that.
Yeah.
I being genuinely curious about what someone else loves. I can definitely get behind that. That's really cool. Thank you.
Josué, I'll piggyback off of that. I've got an example. I have a kid that came in one time, wanted to talk about his favorite country music artist. I hate country music, absolutely hate it. But I was so excited for him. And he spent the whole 50 minutes telling me about this artist and the struggles the guy's been through and how he relates to it. And just like, I didn't have to know anything about this artist. I let him just explain everything, and why he loved this guy and what the music meant to him. And I smiled and was genuinely excited for him, and have never listened to as much country music since then. It was a great hour. And I have a client now who's really into anime. I used to be really into anime. I'm trying to get into it now, and every week he's telling me, you got to watch this, you got to watch this. I'm like, let's watch a clip of it in session. Let's do it. Pull out your phone. Let's do it.
Yeah. It reminds me, I had a client once who his favorite hobby was going shooting with his dad. I didn't know anything about guns at all. I had no idea. And this is just something that he did with his dad. And I remember feeling a little uncomfortable about it because of my own thoughts of like, this kid is pretty small. Like, are they safe? Like, what's going on? Blah, blah. But then again, same thing. Why? What's so great about it? What do you enjoy? And it was more about the experience and his feelings and his thoughts, not what is your favorite gun. It was like, so why is it your favorite thing? Tell me about a great experience. And for him, it was all about his relationship with his father, which basically only existed. They only spoke when they went out, to shoot in a range. Did they go? Did they just shoot outside? I don't remember. But when they engaged in that activity was when he felt like he was connected to his father. And like Lara said, there are times when like maybe they bring us something really interesting. I bought and read Marijuana Man after my client suggested it because I thought it was really interesting. I think if you self-identify as a geek, it is highly likely, I think, that someone getting excited about something might make you excited about something. That doesn't mean it's going to become your favorite, but curiosity is a great way to go. I quickly touched upon like resources for learning about games because we can't buy every game, we can't do it. And some of the examples here in the chat too, it's like they can just teach you about things. I've watched an episode of a series that my client liked or read a summary, right? Like there are so many different ways where we can engage with the content more if we want. Imagine meeting someone for the first time, telling them I'm really into this thing, and then the second time you see them, they say, hey, I remember that thing that you talked about. I looked it up. It seems pretty cool. You're going to feel like $1 million. You're going to feel, I'm guessing here, I'm making an assumption, but that's going to feel pretty good because especially when we're really, really into something, sometimes it's hard to find even other people who are as into it as us or into it at all. There's another comment in the chat. I had a teenager share his love of rap music with me. The rapport built up to where he shared that he makes his own music and he allowed me to listen to it in therapy. That's amazing. Like imagine just the trust that you built to be able to get to that point. It became a tool in therapy for him to put his emotions into a song. You'll feel really heard when others remember what you like. Yeah. Absolutely. Music is a great one. It's something we talk a lot about on our podcasts. And we've even entertained the thought of having an entire podcast that's like Geek Therapy related to music, because there's so much that we can do because we take the music out of context. Like the song could be about one thing, but we have one piece of the lyric that we really, really like. And then it means something to us. It becomes a mantra, or we understand the words wrong, but at a particular moment it meant something. And then to be able to reflect upon that with your therapist and then practice good coping skills, good emotional regulation, and all the things that we can do as therapists to help someone with that information. It's really, really great. Anybody want to share their experiences? Any other questions? Oh, Samantha, did you raise your hand again?
Yes, I'm.
Oh, I lowered it. I'm
waiting.
sorry. I thought it was just sort of. Go
Oh,
ahead.
you're okay. I'm very classic, like teacher's pet. I have to raise my hand.
For
No, it made me think of the question that was asked before about if you're not familiar with the client's fandom. My background is in dialectical behavior therapy, and so this comes up for me most often when I'm teaching about wise mind and reasonable mind versus emotion mind. And I almost always use the examples from like original series Star Trek, looking at those three, or the three from Harry Potter, the trio that's the head there. But not everybody is a Trekkie, and not everybody is a Potterhead. And so that's where I usually open it up to my client and say, what's your fandom, or what are you thinking of? What characters are you associating with this? And the first time I ever did that, I had a client who was really into My Hero Academia at the time, and I'd never heard of that anime before. And she was able to describe very thoroughly like which character went in, reasonable mind, emotional mind, and wise mind. And I had to go watch the show after myself just to make sure we were both on the same page. And it was amazing just how spot on she was. And so for me, it's an example to allow the client to be the expert in the room for once. And, like another comment said before, I'm teaching them something, but they're also teaching me something. And so we build that rapport by, kind of having that back and forth. And like I said, letting them be the expert in the room can really go a long way. And so it's a really good opportunity, I think, to open the door for them to make their own connections, even if you have no idea what they're talking about. They're usually right. So.
Yeah, they are usually right. Like just like as you're saying it, like, oh, the three, you just said the three in the original Star Trek, like, I got you. And then like Potterhead's got it. And even My Hero Academia, that's like an anime that I like. Immediately my mind went to like, oh, who would I pick? Like, I'm assuming Bakugo would be like the emotional one, but I'd have to put more thought into it. But like my mind went there the moment that you said that, because that makes sense to me. That makes perfect sense to me. And I'm not trained in DBT, right? But you just explained an idea very simply through the language of the things that I really enjoy.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you so much. What are your thoughts on violent video games and how they impact children? Great question. Violent video game discussions usually are based on the assumption that video games simply make people more violent. Tons of research is done on video games and violence, and a lot of it is focused on the measurement of aggression. And there are some studies that have shown that when aggression is measured immediately after certain gaming experiences, people can seem more aggressive. This is usually why I bring up the Mario Kart example. If you are not angry after getting hit by a blue shell, I can't relate to you. And if you immediately measured my aggression levels after that, it might be a little higher than before I played the game, or an hour after I played the game. So a lot of those discussions are around that. When we talk about any type of media, any type of gaming, I think that focusing like on American media in particular, it's generally violent. Our heroes shoot people, punch people in the face, hurt people. Even the heroes that we like want our kids to admire. I love Batman, and I am often disturbed by how violent like Batman can be, and tons of heroes. So all media in I think is violent. Think of Looney Tunes, think of even kids shows. A lot of stuff is can be very violent. But the studies related to video games and violence in particular don't really hold water. You can ask a lot of people and they'll give you different opinions, but generally people in my circles, and probably a lot of the people here at this conference, will tell you that it just isn't there. And if you look at a lot of these studies, think about this is a good exercise for all of you. Think of a game that you love. It could be D&D, it could be any other RPG, any video game. Look up a research article that covers it, and then look at the way that they describe the game. And in video games, usually they don't talk about what difficulty the level the game was set at. They don't talk about the environment that the client was playing in, or the subject was playing in, and they don't talk about the person's skill level. So if you sit down to play a game that you've never played before in an uncomfortable chair with bad lighting, really hard difficulty setting, and a controller you're not familiar with, all of those things are going to stress you out. And a lot of video game research is just that. They just throw people into play a game, and without much thought put into the settings and how they might affect the person individually. It is shocking to me that there is so much video game research done. Like it is impossible to keep up with it, but that we still do that. There's so many things that we can control and so many factors that are at play that would be applicable to certain people, but video game research just doesn't cover that. Tom and Jerry, excessively violent. Yes. Bad research controls. Absolutely. They shouldn't get through peer review. No, they shouldn't, but they do, because the people peer reviewing don't know to ask, what was the difficulty setting? And were they playing on a Xbox controller versus a, PlayStation controller? Which are they used to? And things like that. Yeah. It is shocking still to this day, because there's so much video game research going on. Was it a console or it's a PC port? Absolutely. Was it glitchy? There's so many things. There's so many different things. Anyone else? This is definitely, Samantha, is your hand up again, or is it still up from before?
Oh, it might still be up from before.
Oh, okay. Just checking. Jacob, are you? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I am a big believer in therapists seeing therapists. And I'm curious where a aspiring geek therapist would go to find a geek therapist to work with.
Yeah. So I suggest joining our Facebook group, the Geek Therapy Facebook group. It's facebook.com/groups/Geek Therapy. It's the Geek Therapy community Facebook group. It has 2,200, 2,300 members now, Lara?
2,300 now, I think.
2,300? Yeah. And it's us. It's us. People ask for referrals for clients, but I absolutely recommend reaching out. I have tried on multiple occasions over the last 9 years to create a directory for us, and it has never gone well. So yeah, I wish I had a better answer. I've tried to address that before, but there's a lot of us who are practitioners and who or enthusiasts of these topics. So I would suggest it's the place with the most people, and there are people all around the world. So I don't know where you're located, but you can also just email us, hello@geektherapy.com, and I'd be happy to let you know, because I touch base with people all over the place, and I could have ideas of people that you could work with. Yeah. So definitely, I hope those are helpful. But I wish there was a directory. There just isn't. And again, you may find remnants of a few, but they're not great. Hey, some of you joined the Facebook group. Welcome. Yeah,
I'll approve right now.
Lara's a moderator in the group. Yeah, and I think I completely agree. I'll tell you a quick experience. I started seeing a new therapist a few months ago. 2020 has been hard. I don't know if you can all share in that experience.
Amen.
So I was looking specifically for an REBT therapist, because that was my training, and I'm very gung-ho about theoretical orientation. I was like, no, I'm going to see an REBT therapist. But as I'm looking for an RBT therapist, this particular one had Star Trek posters in the picture of his office. So it was a no-brainer. And even though I don't know if my therapist has ever joined our group or listened to any of the things that we talk about or heard of any of these concepts, he's a huge nerd. And so I now, since he's not in his office, but he's working from home, he changes the movie posters behind him. So the first day was like Blade Runner and Lord of the Rings, and I forgot the other two. I think now he has the trilogy, and he's got a few huge posters in the back. And so I feel very comfortable immediately talking about, like, oh, I feel like this character from a movie. I feel like this scene when this happened. and it just kind of works because he gets it. So there's a lot of people out there who are open to these ideas. So I would look for things also, like if you're going to be limited by your insurance, you're going to be, and this is something to talk to potential clients about too, right? Or people who come to you, you're going to be limited by all the things that we know that we're limited by: money, insurance, location, licensure, etc. But just look for people who are like really open on their profiles. Like, I like hiking, or like, I'm really into Star Wars, and I love Lego, or I love going to Comic-Con. Look for things like that. And I think that's a good place to start. Anyone else? Oh, this has been great. It should be a we're close to the 8 o'clock mark. So yeah, I mean, thank you for all of you who've shared in the chat. And yeah, please, I'm going to bring up the slide again, just with our website and any other, and I'm gonna mention one more time the Extra Life. So it is a convention, not a convention. It is a marathon, if you're not familiar, raising funds for Children's Miracle Network hospitals. Is actually, I mean, this is the stuff I was talking about before. Check us out. Oh yeah, Let's Play Therapy Institute. Again, I do CE courses there too, so that's another resource for you. But yeah, I want to make sure I bring up Extra Life is a gaming marathon, 24 hours in November. We play to raise funds for the Children's Miracle Network hospitals. And we've been doing this for about 5 years. Last year, we were able to raise over $5,000 as a team. So if you're interested in doing something like that, please join our team and you can raise funds with us. It's connected to Facebook. It's pretty easy. It's a lot of fun. We can play together. We can just, even if you never talk to us, you can just join the team and raise money together. We'll be promoting our team a lot. And or if you're willing and able to help us raise funds by making a donation, that would be awesome too. That is our big push for the rest of October and November. That's something that we're working on. What kind of info for CEs that you do? So you can email me at well, you can go here, geektherapy.com for more information. I do CEs in many different places. Letsplaytherapy.org is one. I'll put that in the chat, actually. And then I sometimes contract out by different groups. So if you follow us on social media, I'm usually talking about the different places that we're doing that. But letsplaytherapy.org, we've been doing trainings. Again, this summer, we've done Lego training. We've done, we've got an upcoming Lego training, an upcoming video game training, and just, it's a lot of geek therapy that we're doing through the letsplaytherapy.org. Yeah, definitely go there first. But you can always email me, and I'm happy to let you know what's next, if it's outside of geektherapy.com and Let's Play Therapy. Yeah, I don't want to end until I mean, I've got like 3 more minutes. Anything else? Oh, Sarah says, when I used to go to conventions, I always bought Extra Life pins. Yeah, it's a great way to donate. Lara is here in the audience, and she is the team captain. She set up this thing. It was hers before it was ever the official Geek Therapy team, and she's talking about getting it. There was an Extra Life D20, and it's beautiful, and I missed out because it was only during the month of August, and I'm very disappointed. Are you playing any games that save against fear this year? I haven't played any games because I had 2 presentations today, and I was invited to a game that started, an hour before this presentation. So, so unfortunately, I have not played. But a lot of people that I know are here, and we're playing different games. Oh, I forgot to mention on one of our podcasts, we're playing on Rolling for Change. We're playing a game called. We've been playing Kids on Bikes? No, is it Kids on Bikes that they're playing? Yeah.
They're
So
playing Kids on Bikes. It's Shrinks
it's
on
Kids on
Bikes.
Bikes. Right. So it's Shrinks on Bikes, right? And they've recorded it, and they've got like a 40-hour campaign, and they're all therapists, and they're all here at this convention. I think Brian Quinones is one of them. There's a few people, and there's so many good people at this convention, and we've got different games going on at different times, and some people are play testing stuff. But yeah, unfortunately, I haven't been able to play anything this weekend. Hopefully, maybe later. There you go. And yeah, self-plug in the chat. Absolutely. Go for it. So I'm going to stop the recording now. Thank you for everyone for watching. And yeah, please reach out, and thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoy Save 2020.